Let's talk about something that often gets overlooked in relationships: space. It's one of those things that, if ignored, can lead to breakups faster than almost anything else. Seriously, space is crucial. It either strengthens attraction or completely wipes it out. Think about it. We're born as individuals. The moment we come into this world, we start forming our own sense of self, right? As we grow, we separate ourselves from our parents and others, developing a unique identity. And with that identity comes a need for space. Space to grow, reflect, and understand who we are. But here's the problem. When people enter a relationship, space usually takes a back seat. You know how it goes. Everything's hot and heavy at the start, maybe even some love bombing happening. And before you know it, the relationship feels suffocated and all the excitement is drained. It's a weird balance, isn't it? We want freedom and independence, but we also crave connection and intimacy. And that's why space is so important. Not just at the beginning of a relationship, when things can get too intense, but even in long-term relationships. When a woman loses attraction, it's often because there wasn't enough distance. The same goes for losing interest in sex. It's usually because her sense of space was invaded. Here's the thing. Attraction grows in space, not in close quarters. When you give each other space, it shifts the focus from just yourself to your partner. But when you feel suffocated, it's because the focus is entirely on the other person. Only when you're given some space do you start to miss your partner and crave intimacy again. It's this cycle that every healthy relationship needs to figure out, finding the right balance between closeness and distance. People who are insecure or have anxious personalities tend to push back against space because they fear losing their partner. But for most people, introducing space isn't an issue. The majority of people have a secure attachment style, with others being avoidant or anxious. Regardless of attachment style, space is non-negotiable, even if it feels like the last thing you want. It's interesting. Eroticism and attraction often live in that in-between zone of anxiety and fascination. The more uncertain you are about someone, the more attracted you might feel. But the moment a woman feels smothered, she's going to start feeling bored, restless, and even trapped. When space is reintroduced, she becomes uncertain about where the guy stands, and that's when she starts thinking about him more and feeling that spark of attraction again. Whether you're just starting out in a new relationship or have been married for years, space is a must. And yay, it's tempting to close the gap when you feel that distance, but resist it. Men often worry that if they give a woman space, she'll forget about them or find someone else. But just like how anxiety can stoke attraction, so can the introduction of space. It's a reflection of your confidence and emotional strength. For women, few things are scarier than losing their freedom and feeling trapped in a stifling relationship. Freedom is right up there with air and water. It's essential. Any guy who tries to cling too tightly, denying space out of fear, is showing insecurity, and that's never attractive. So, how do you bring space into a relationship? You've got to trust that she'll come back on her own terms. In the early stages, couples often spend all their time together, but you have to understand the different ways men and women fall in love. Studies show men tend to fall in love quicker and want intimacy sooner, but too much time together can actually kill attraction. The key is to create space, even when it's uncomfortable. Take Max and Ashley, for example. They'd been married for 9 years when Ashley suddenly told Max, "I want a divorce," totally out of the blue. Max was blindsided. What about the kids? Why now? Sure, he knew their marriage wasn't perfect, but he didn't think it was bad enough for divorce. Their passionate relationship had fizzled into something routine and distant. Still, Max believed it could be fixed. Ashley, though, she was done. She craved passion and excitement, things she no longer felt with Max. Their days had turned into predictable routines. Now, when Ashley looked at Max, all she saw was a friend. The spark was gone. She didn't think about him or wonder what he was up to during the day. A year ago, she tried to get some space to figure things out, but Max panicked every time she asked for it. making her feel even more trapped. She eventually realized she had no choice but to leave. You see, once you become predictable, you also become boring. Attractive men don't put their partner at the center of their world. They lead full lives, and that naturally creates space in the relationship. Even in long-term relationships, space is necessary. You can do this by maintaining some independence. Work out on your own, see your own friends, pursue your hobbies. If you're always together, sometimes sleeping in separate beds can even rekindle attraction. It sounds counterintuitive, but research shows that separate sleeping arrangements can actually bring back that much-needed space and attraction in long-term relationships. For guys who are insecure or possessive, the idea of giving a woman space can be a nightmare. But a relationship should never feel like a burden. The most unattractive thing you can do is force yourself on someone who's clearly asking for space. If you want the attraction to last, you have to allow space to exist, even when it feels uncomfortable.